Hello? Hello? Hello, hello?
Hello.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. You are one of two people who RSVP'd for this webinar. And you're the first to arrive. So you're going to get a very customized and personalized presentation. We wanted to go ahead and do it anyway, just so that we could practice ourselves, quite frankly.
Okay.
So we didn't want to cancel it, but you know, if you would humor us and let us go through our spiel, and then, you know, you can certainly have the floor and ask whatever questions you have. I know that you are actually in a high school setting, right? You're at Belmont Charter in college
Yes.
and career? Great.
Yes.
So admittedly, our presentation is a little more tailored for a higher ed crowd, but I think a lot of it will still apply.
Okay.
So I'm Hillary Kane. I don't think we've met, but I'm the director of FEND, and we have a couple folks in the room. I'm remote from home because I have a sick child / a couple sniffles,
Oh,
and so,
no.
you know, in the abundance of caution, I'm staying home. And it looks like a bunch of my team and colleagues are in our conference room, and so so we'll get everyone introduced, and then we're going to go through our slides. So why don't you guys
Okay.
in the conference room say who you are, and we'll get started.
Hi, my name is Majupe Oki. I'm the Next Step AmeriCorps Program Manager with FEND.
Hi, I'm Joe Lorenzo, and I actually work in the Mayor's Office of Civic Engagement Volunteer Service as their Service Year Expansion Manager.
Hi, my name is Ben. I'm the administrative coordinator, previously the leader here at FEND.
Dana Kaiser, I'm the operations coordinator for the VISTA program here at FEND.
Great. All right, so just some background on the FEND K-16 network. So FEND as a whole is a network of colleges and universities supporting civic engagement, community partnership. In general, our roles is to, you know, be an information clearinghouse, be a hub of networking. We provide training and technical assistance. Sometimes we're matchmakers, so helping community partners and universities collaborate and find each other. And every once in a while, we actually have enough money to re-grant and provide financial support for community partnerships. And about 10 years ago, we created a sub-network of FEND called our FEND K-16 Partnerships Network. The idea being that it's K-12 schools plus universities, so K-16, and really recognizing that while university community partnerships can be challenging, school partnerships are sort of a whole nother thing. Whether it's everything from, you know, the additional clearances and regulations that are involved to, you know, academic calendars that are not quite aligned to, you know, in the case of many of our partnerships, dealing with the bureaucracy of the School District of Philadelphia. Like, there's just a whole nother level of challenge and complication. So we basically have a whole nother series of events, networking, information clearinghouse, just around university school partnerships. Next slide. And under that larger K-16 umbrella, we have a lot of what we would call our regional initiatives, where FEND is kind of taking the lead on a multi-university or sort of multi-organization partnership and inviting other people to the table. So things like our Next Steps AmeriCorps program, which Majupe is going to talk about later, our FEND Fellows AmeriCorps Vista project, which we're not necessarily going to explicitly cover, but we certainly have enough people in the room to talk about that. And even our work with Gear Up. Hold on, sweet pea. Sorry, I have my sick kid coming in just at the right moment. And so the other thing is that we have what we've created here with this webinar is really an emphasis on college success. So we've realized that a lot of our campuses are doing stuff with K-12. We're tutoring kids, we're mentoring, and, you know, what's the point of all that? It's so that kids grow up to be healthy, productive adults. And you know, increasingly that means a college degree. And we have narrowed the gap, or we're starting to narrow the gap in terms of college access. So more and more low-income and first-gen kids are getting into college, but they're not necessarily getting degrees, and certainly getting degrees on time. And oh wait, we're a network of colleges and universities. Maybe we should look at ourselves and think about what we can do as campuses to really ensure that it's, as they say, going to and through. And so that is what we've done with creating this College Success Network. And so we've tried to, really focus on ways that campuses can sort of improve practice, change practice, to be more, as Tia McNair said in one of our kickoff things, for colleges to be more student ready than always complaining about students not being college ready. All right, next slide. So we have sort of done this call to action, click, and we came up with, really there's sort of 5 buckets, but this College Success Network framework really has sort of 4 major areas that we think impact student success. And this came out of a series of focus groups that we did about 2 years ago. One is around teaching and learning, or high impact practices and instruction, just thinking about, how are we teaching? Do our faculty understand culturally relevant pedagogy? Are high impact practices like service learning and study abroad and internships equitably distributed? That sort of thing. Then financial and social support. So obviously financial aid, but other things like, food pantries on campus, housing insecurity, transportation, childcare, sort of all of the financial things that sometimes are barriers for students. The supportive culture and climate. So that's really about, does this campus feel welcoming all the time, everywhere, or not just in the Black Student Center or in this one other office over here, but do I feel welcome throughout the campus? And then data. So what are we learning about students? Do we track anything related to first gen and low income student success? And if we do, what are we learning? We do also have a 5th bucket around career and academic advising, which quite frankly, today's webinar really fits in. And that's really about, are students taking courses that add up to a degree? Do those degrees add up to a job? A job with family sustaining wages, and sort of what's our role advising students on their sort of career trajectory. All right, last one, I think. All right, so see, these are some of the workshops and the webinars that we've had in the past 1.5 years related to those different bucket areas. We did a kickoff event in October 2018, and through that event kind of crowdsourced these questions related to those bucket areas. And so this is kind of how we frame some of our work. So just know that we've already generated a lot of resources. We've recorded all these webinars. They're on this website. Today's webinar will be recorded and go up there as well. And then the last thing, I think this really is the last slide, next, is that, oh, of course, there's all these, yeah, there we go. And so everyone who is on today's call, all one of you will be subscribed, I think you're already, to our College Success Network newsletter. And so that way you will learn about, new announcements, other webinars and events when we're back to having events in person, calls for proposals, grants, other resources that are available in the college access and success space. So that is an overview of how we come to be here today. And we will switch to our other presentation. Great. And we will kick it off. And then certainly, Milan, if you have questions at any point, feel free to interrupt. I mean, obviously this is a small group, so we'll keep it pretty informal.
Okay.
So this is AmeriCorps Week. So woohoo, we're celebrating AmeriCorps across the country. And as this slide shows, AmeriCorps has been around for over 25 years, which is pretty exciting. And yet for some people, it is a well-kept secret. So we hope to make sure that more folks know about AmeriCorps, and not just how AmeriCorps impacts communities and the service aspect of it, which of course is huge, but what we in the AmeriCorps field would call member development. So how it really impacts the people who are doing AmeriCorps. And as I think all of us around the table have seen, AmeriCorps can really impact people, particularly when it comes to them thinking about what they want to do professionally and personally. So we're going to do a quick overview of AmeriCorps and National Service. Jeroli is going to talk about the Serve Philadelphia Vista program specifically, but also about AmeriCorps in general and how it can be used to sort of launch a career. Then we'll talk a little bit about how colleges and universities specifically can work with AmeriCorps before, during, and after college, and then in full-time capacity. And then Modupe is going to talk about a new model that we have where it's part-time AmeriCorps while students are in college. So as we move to the next slide, Milan, do you need an AmeriCorps overview, or are you pretty familiar with AmeriCorps already?
You can give me a little overview if that's okay.
No worries, good. Okay, so AmeriCorps is typically a year of service. There are some variations, but generally speaking, people sign up to do a full calendar year. Sometimes it's 10 months, but generally at least 6 months of, for the most part, full-time, though of course there's variations there too, but generally speaking, we're talking about a full-time, full year commitment to community service in a structured program. AmeriCorps itself is a federally funded initiative. Members who are in full-time service get what's called a living stipend during their service. So it's basically like a little biweekly paycheck. Emphasis on little. It is generally speaking close to the poverty rate, if not a little bigger. So I'd say the average AmeriCorps member is probably making in the $15,000 a year range for the full-time service that they're doing. So it's not really meant to be a salary of any kind. It's meant to just be enough to kind of like pay for food and shelter and keep you, give you the ability to do the service. But one nice thing about AmeriCorps is at the end of your service, members are eligible to receive an education award, which is basically like a scholarship that they can use to pay off tuition, to pay off loans, to pay for future college expenses. And we have another slide that goes into more detail about the AmeriCorps award. But there are typically other benefits like basic health insurance, childcare subsidies. And so, as much as possible, AmeriCorps is trying to make it so that all people can serve. There's also student loan forbearance, so somebody who already has college debt. In some ways, it's often like being in grad school where your loans are in forbearance. You don't have to start paying them right away. In fact, AmeriCorps itself will cover the interest that accrues on your loans during that year of service. And the other nice thing is that it really is a resume boost, and so, which we'll certainly talk more about, but in addition to the skills that people get while doing AmeriCorps, there's also a growing list of what are called employers of national service. And these are, a lot of them are sort of multinational corporations, but even the city of Philadelphia itself is an employer of national service. And what they've said is that if you have AmeriCorps on your resume, it will give you a leg up. So it's not necessarily a guaranteed job, but it will give you, I think in Philadelphia's case, a couple points on your civil service exam. For other employers, it might mean different things, but they've sort of made this public commitment to being an AmeriCorps alumni-friendly organization in terms of hiring. And then after 25 years, there's a pretty robust alumni network. And so it's almost 1 million people who have done AmeriCorps, which is pretty amazing. And so, different cities have different levels of activity in their AmeriCorps alumni chapters. Philadelphia's is sort of getting renewed. But, there's networking, there's happy hours, there's, webinars for career placement. I mean, there's all kinds of resources out there specifically for AmeriCorps alums. All right, and so more about the Siegel AmeriCorps Education Award. So the full-time award is equivalent to the maximum Pell Grant. So right now, I think it's just over $6,000, and I think it's set to go up next year. So if you complete a full-time year of service, you basically get an end of service bonus of the $6,000 AmeriCorps Ed Award. Folks can use it for up to 7 years, so you don't have to use it right away, but you can use it whether if you're going to college, if you're going to grad school. If you have student debt, you can use it to help pay off loans. It's fairly flexible. It can be used for any legitimate educational expense, so it doesn't have to be just tuition. But as long as it has to go to an institution of higher education or to a loan holder. You can only earn up to 2 Ed Awards in your lifetime. So you can't live in AmeriCorps your whole life and keep racking up Ed Awards. They do max out at 2 full-time equivalent awards, but just know that folks can do up to 2 years of service and earn those 2 Ed Awards. And then in some programs, and this is kind of a new thing, Ed Awards can be transferred to children or grandchildren. So I think this is an AmeriCorps State and National, not Vista. But you know, if somebody, while we often think of AmeriCorps members as being young people right out of high school or college, there are grandparents doing AmeriCorps, and they may not want the Ed Award for themselves. And about 10 years ago, they changed the law and made it so that folks could transfer those Ed Awards to their children or grandchildren. And I think we actually have one of our Vistas this year who had an AmeriCorps award that they received from a grandparent, which is, you know, kind of exciting. And then the other thing is that some institutions are starting to match or boost the Ed Award. I think this is mostly in the grad school realm, but probably not exclusively grad school. But some campuses are saying like, oh, if you already have this $6,000 because we want to recruit AmeriCorps alums, you know, we'll match that and give you institutional aid of $6,000. Or, you know, it could be less. So it's not necessarily a one-to-one match. And there's a list, and we can get that link out, of campuses that either match the Ed Award or boost it in some way in terms of financial aid. All right, so I'm going to switch it over to Droly, who's going to talk about the Serve Philly Vista program specifically, but also, you know, how Vista and AmeriCorps in general is a way to help launch a career.
Yep. So the Serve Philadelphia Vista Corps sits in the Mayor's Office of Civic Engagement and Volunteer Service. It's a program where we have our members matched to different city departments, and they work on different projects to build capacity within their departments. All of the departments' projects have to fight injustices and causes of poverty. So every year we have program directors of these departments submit a project to have members work on for the year, and then members would apply, and we try to match them as closely as possible. So it's a really great opportunity for folks that are interested in working in city government, because they get to, you know, network within city government, kind of see other projects that are happening within departments, and then really great opportunity to understand and learn a lot about the mayor's priorities. So it's a really great just space for folks to learn about the local needs of communities in Philadelphia and do some capacity work around that. So how do we achieve this? So we achieve this through the creation of sustainable systems and increased organizational capacity through non-direct service work. So a lot of our Vistas are building tools or structures or systems within the city departments to help promote the work that that department is doing in the community. So one example is the Mayor's Office of Education. You might have heard of the Community School Initiative. We have Vistas that are doing a lot of parent engagement work within those schools. So most of the Vista projects do align with the mayor's priorities for the term. Yeah, and so part of the program goal is to produce alumni who are civically engaged, passionate, and employable. For our one-year Vista program, members need to have a bachelor so that they are employable, and, you know, to make sure that we're setting them up for success in that space. But we do offer a summer program for high school students or anyone that does not have a bachelor that also wants to network and learn a little bit more about work in city government. This year we don't have the summer program, but we definitely will next year. And as a result of that change, we have increased Vista positions to 50 Vistas this year, which is really great. Just shows growth within AmeriCorps and programs in general. So it's a really good opportunity, even for high school students that you know that are interested in learning about city government, for that summer position. So with that strategic focus, AmeriCorps is a great pathway to personal and professional discovery and growth. And we promote that through several initiatives within our core. So first off, we have a cohort model. So this model allows us to build in a system of support, community, and network. We have a Vista leader who is really great at, checking in with our core members, doing a lot of the social emotional support, and also organizing a lot of the professional development events that we hold and networking opportunities for our core members. He holds mandatory bi-monthly meetings for these professional development and team building opportunities. We really emphasize on building leadership skills like conflict management, public speaking, and providing that career readiness by supporting with writing resumes, cover letters, and interviewing. We just hosted with FEND Life After Vista conference, which was really great. And I had the opportunity to sit on a panel, talk about my macro social work background. So we really try to expose our members with as many professionals and experts to really support them in figuring out, where is it that they want to go and what their passions and the professional careers that they're interested in. So that being said, we have conferences, lunch and learns with career professionals to talk about job pathways, higher education, and any hiring advice. We really try to build in a supportive system for members to truly explore what is it that they want to do in the future or where they want to take the next step towards. We also have leadership positions available for our core members so that they can have experience of organizing events and supporting one another. So we do have different committees within our core. So we have an annual events committee and a professional development committee, which I have worked really closely in supporting with the Vista core in our office. And then coming really soon is more additional support with the Philadelphia AmeriCorps alumni chapter. And I've been sort of spearheading getting this chapter started, and it's just super exciting. I've been doing all my phone screenings this week to put a 14-member board for the AmeriCorps alumni chapter. And this is going to be a really great space where alums can support currently serving members before, during, and after their service. And it's also a really great way to get our currently member that are serving now connected to the alums and connected to more professional development and networking opportunities after their service. Cool. So this is a pie chart that shows our last year Vista Core Life After Service. So you can get an idea of some of the pathways they have taken to better their career outcomes. So we have 29.6 further education, go on to grad school. So it's really great, really taking advantage of that Ed Award. We have 14.8 that do end up getting employed in the city, which is great. So that just shows the professional development, networking within the city happening there. We have a lot of folks, 22.2%, that ended up working in nonprofits. And then we have employment with the federal, I think that's government. Not sure, I can double check. But this just really shows, this is from last year, just the different pathways that folks are taking after they do their year of service. Are there any questions for me?
Nope, not so far.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. So I'm going to talk about AmeriCorps, different ways that colleges can partner more with AmeriCorps and be more intentional about working with students who are either doing AmeriCorps before, during, or after college. So certainly there's, some students do a year of AmeriCorps after high school, and they can do this for a variety of reasons. We have some students who are just not quite sure of what their interests are. They're just not yet ready to go to college, perhaps socio-emotionally, and they just need another year to sort of figure things out and get prepared. And so there are lots of programs that accept folks with only a high school degree. And what's nice is that instead of just sort of spending a year kind of futzing around, working at Starbucks, living with mom and dad, this is a more focused and, targeted experience that will help someone build their resume. And I think more importantly, as you just heard from Jiroli about all the professional development, they're still part of a supportive community that's going to keep them growing and also be pushing them to say like, okay, what are your next moves? Are you applying to college? Like, how are you going to take advantage? And then they're of course earning this Ed Award. So, there's definitely students who I think can benefit from a year of service before they go to college. And then one thing that campuses can do, and Dartmouth apparently is an example, is they have formalized deferrals. And so this might be for a student who got into college and still wants to do a gap year before college. And this is a way for the campus to say, that's great. We recognize that, we honor that, and we will hold your place for you for next year. So certainly I think folks who are in a position of counseling seniors might want to think about this for students who aren't quite sure and ready to go to college. And then there's others who are just, they're ready and they're excited, but they still want to take a gap year to get more experience. Next slide. So there's certainly, and this is less common, but there's certainly ways to do AmeriCorps as a gap year during college. So we've had a couple of members over the years who just decided to take time off, whether it's between sophomore and junior year or junior and senior year, and put a pause on their college degree, go do AmeriCorps for a year and come back. There's starting to be more emphasis on this as an intentional thing that campuses can do, in some ways similar to the way Drexel has co-op, where there's more structured and intentional work experiences during the your college process, during your college career. There weren't really a lot of great examples of that, quite frankly, and I don't know anyone in the region that's doing that. But again, I think there's ways for career advisors and academic advisors on the college side to think about AmeriCorps as a possible way to do a year off without being, truly off. And so, for various reasons, students might want to take a break. Maybe the intensity of the academic commitment, who knows? There could be a variety of reasons, financial aid reasons that students just sort of need to take a year off. And unfortunately, a lot of those students, again, take a year off to go work at McDonald's or whatever, or wait tables. And, and that can be a recipe for getting off track and never getting back on. And again, AmeriCorps can be a way to sort of keep your resume fresh, be engaged, think about possible career that you might want to be in, and again, be a part of a supportive environment where people will be encouraging you to go back to school. And then of course, you're also earning this scholarship that will help you go back to school. And then as Giroli mentioned, there are programs, even if the city's not doing it this year, there are summer only positions. And so that is another way, and that's really more part-time, but it's a way to sort of do AmeriCorps while in college and certainly over summer break. And again, earn money and gain experience. Next. All right, and then what's also becoming common is AmeriCorps as a gap year after college. And so I think those of us in the Vista world tend to get a lot of these types of students because they're recent college graduates. They're doing a gap year between undergrad and perhaps grad school. We haven't crunched our numbers, Giroli, but it probably isn't that different in terms of Vistas who go on to grad school versus go on to the workforce, the nonprofit sector. It's a way to continue to gain experience, enhance your skill set. And while there are many programs like ours that are completely, external to a college campus, there are also starting to be programs that are run by campuses themselves. And so the example here is the College of William and Mary, which I pulled from the Service Year in Higher Education Toolkit. But locally, I also know about Haverford House, which for probably 15 years now has run their own postgraduate or post-baccalaureate year of service program. And so every year they host about, 6 or 7 recent graduates. It's a small program, but they all live together in a house in West Philly, and they're assigned to different nonprofit organizations. They're doing capacity building projects similar to AmeriCorps Vista. I think the deal with Haverford is they work 35 hours a week for the nonprofit. Haverford provides them with sort of, free housing and a very small stipend. And then the remaining 5 hours a week, they're supposed to be thinking about ways to connect the campus to the nonprofit and essentially creating service opportunities for other undergraduates. And so that is another way that campuses can be doing more intentional, years of service, gap years, and again, whether you're running it yourself or just referring other students, referring graduates to these programs, it's a way to help your alumni gain experience and be more on the path towards really figuring out what their career is. All right. And then I'm going to turn it over to Modupe, who's going to talk about a different way of doing AmeriCorps during college, not as a gap year, but simultaneous. And so take it away, Modupe.
All right, so we have a general mission to kind of give you an overview of everything. The Next Up AmeriCorps program is a college access and retention initiative for undergraduate students, both sophomores and juniors. We partner with Temple University, Kutztown University, Cabrini University, and CCP. We get our funding from the Corporation for National and Community Service, and then we apply for that grant with PennServe as FEND. And then we recruit 63 members, so 60 part-time AmeriCorps members, 3 full-time students. So the 60 part-time members do 300 hours of community service, and then the full-time student does 1,700 hours of community service. And then we also recruit mentees, and I'll show you why that's important. It's about 60 mentees if you want to do 1 per part-time student, or if you do 2 per part-time student, it's 120. So about 60 to 120 mentees that we recruit, and our mentees are incoming freshmen at the universities that we partner with. And then we start on August 20th and we end August 19th of the following year. We do have some responsibilities that are different from the team leaders, the mentor, and the mentees. The team leaders help support our part-time members, which are the mentors. The mentors, they have 3 components. That's community service, where they partner with a community service site within the university or outside of their university, but very close to the university. They also mentor that incoming freshman, and the 3rd component is attending professional development workshops. We'll get into that a bit later. The mentee responsibility is just having that willingness and that openness to meet with that mentor once a week for at least an hour. So it can just be for an hour, or they can meet every day for an hour, Monday through Friday as well. We do have benefits, as Hillary stated before, but to kind of give you an overview of the mentor and the mentee benefit. The mentor benefit, they get an education award as well, which is definitely less than the full-time, but they still get that education award to help them with their studies. And that award for last year, or this current program year, is $1,289.95. And they also can get a quote-unquote living stipend through work study if they're eligible. And then the mentee, they just have someone that is there for them that can help them transition from high school to their first year of college, that answers questions, that guides them in the right direction. As I stated, there are 3 components: leadership development, peer mentoring, and community service. So we're going to get into the peer mentoring. So in the beginning of the year, so this is when the mentor, which is the part-time AmeriCorps member, meets with their mentee, which is that first year incoming student. The beginning of the year, they go over the first meeting, study strategies, how to add and drop courses, how to explore or choosing a major. They do study hall. And then the mid-year, we try to focus on a new semester, because that starts more so in the spring. Midterm study hall, because this will be their first time where they have midterms. So we like to help them facilitate how to study and what to focus on, and how to do a great job with their midterm tests. And then the FAFSA updates, just so they could be prepared to turn in their FAFSAs in March for the upcoming year. And then we talk about extracurricular activities, so how to join student organizations, how to get on different teams, and what is out there at their university for them to participate in. And then we also try to go over budget while in college, so the students are aware that, this is what comes in every month, or it may be every 2 weeks, but how can I stretch that in order to accommodate all the things that I need for the particular week or the whole academic year. And then at the end of the year, the mentor mentees get together for their year of reflection and how to pass the baton for their sophomore year. Any study abroad or study away programs or opportunities that they can enroll in while in the university, maybe as a freshman or as a sophomore. And then how to have healthy habits, maybe attending events, what that looks like to build relationships, and talk about summer jobs, internships, and resume building in order to kind of get them out outside their comfort zone in the summer and get a job or internship where they're interested in, especially if they're exploring their major and they chose a major, but they want to make sure that it's something that they will enjoy. During the end of the year, they start to talk about some jobs, internships that will help them and benefit them as they explore that major and continue to choose that major moving forward. There are professional development workshops for our mentors, and the mentees are definitely eligible or can attend. We do healthy habits on campus. Our team leaders plan our professional development workshops for our mentors, and that could range from time management, completing the FAFSA, resume building. They partner with departments on campus to bring these workshops together, or they can do the research on their own and facilitate the workshop by themselves. We also have the all-core event where our team leaders, our mentors, and mentees do participate. We do have an orientation or kickoff event in August. We do have a mid-year event on January 9th, and then the end of the year event on May 18th. We do also have community service sites that we partner with, and just to name a few, Achieving Independence Center, which works closely with foster youth, Barnes Foundation, Communities in Schools in Philadelphia, the Trio Upward Bound at CCP, as well as they do have an Upward Bound at Temple University, where we partner with, and our members are to serve there for 300 hours. They usually do 8 to 10 hours a week. And then we do have days of service that we recognize September 11th, October 21st, January 20th, and that's for AmeriCorps as a whole. And our members, our Corps, also participate in those activities as well. And then we do want to go over some of the preliminary outcomes. We do have an evaluator that comes in and not only meets with our mentors and mentees, but we do give surveys in the beginning and the end of the year to analyze their progress in the program and to see if this is beneficial. One of the things that the evaluators stated was that Next Step members tend to persist and graduate at much higher rates than the most comparable cohorts in the general student body at one institution. Mentors tend to report outcomes related to career readiness, skill building, and identify formation as their primary outcomes. And then in 2018-2019, which is our last program year, we have 42 Next Up AmeriCorps members earned $52,622.22 and education awards for completing 12,600 hours of community service and mentoring 67 first-year students. But that is the Next Step AmeriCorps program. Do you have any questions, comments, concerns about the Next Step program?
No, I don't.
Okay.
All right. So the other thing is just that Next Steps is not the only part-time AmeriCorps program that exists. There's also the Bonner Leaders Program, which operates on several campuses around the country. I'm pretty sure that Rutgers Camden is doing it, but it's similar where students are doing part-time AmeriCorps while they are still in college and doing off-campus community service work study. And basically, you know, just like with our program, they're sort of allowed to double dip and count those work study hours towards AmeriCorps. And then they're doing additional training and professional development while they're in school. And you can certainly click on the bonner.org website. And so, you know, the last thing that I think we wanted to end with, and then, you know, we're happy to have a conversation if you want, is there are just dozens and dozens of programs, and part of the trick for advising students about what the right program might be for them is, of course, to have familiarity with the different programs. I mean, in some ways not dissimilar to, trying to advise students on college and college fit, right? There's also in some ways AmeriCorps fit. And so just to highlight some of the different options that you may not be aware of. So nationally, there are a couple of programs that AmeriCorps itself runs. So one is called NCCC, the National Civilian Community Corps, I think. I'm probably botching that. But it is a program that is actually pretty amazing and very hands-on. And I think is a great option, particularly for a young person coming out of high school who maybe isn't sure what they want to do, and maybe has never left Philadelphia. This is a program where you go and live together in a cohort of young people. It's, I think, 18 to 24-year-olds. They provide housing, food, travel costs. I think the closest home base of operations to Philly is in Maryland. And then they get deployed in sort of these 8-week chunks to different parts of the country to do different special projects. And so it could be disaster related. It also could be like going and doing volunteer income tax for 8 weeks. It could be working in an after school program for 8 weeks, but they sort of do these mini projects and travel the country and live together, church basements, rec centers. It's a very, interesting kind of roll up your sleeves kind of program. And people who do it seem to really get a lot out of it. There's also a special program called AmeriCorps, which partners with the Federal Emergency Management Agency. And unlike what you might think is that they're going around and dealing with disasters, and while to some degree that is true, it's actually more of an administrative position, but it also does not require a college degree. There also is travel involved, and housing and food and everything is covered. So AmeriCorps is a really interesting model as well. Next slide. And then locally, we have a ton of AmeriCorps options in Philadelphia. And so AmeriCorps is generally broken up into 2 main buckets. So one is called AmeriCorps State and National, which is sort of traditional AmeriCorps, if you will, where you're doing direct service. College degrees may or may not be required depending on the program. AmeriCorps is officially open to all ages, though some programs may limit, like city years, particularly I think ages 17 to 24, but there are dozens of local options. These are just some examples. I think Public Allies is in Wilmington, but not Philadelphia, but certainly in the region. Excuse me. And you can find, if you go to AmeriCorps.gov, that is where programs will actually list opportunities. So in some ways, it's like the big AmeriCorps job board. And then we also have Philadelphia, a specific landing page on Service Year Alliance, which has more information about other local opportunities. And some, depending on what you're interested in, Playworks and Up to Us Sports, for example, are doing youth-based, sports-based youth development work. The National Nurse-Led Care Consortium is obviously doing stuff in the public health sector. So it's really a variety, though in Philly, it tends to be a lot of education-related programming, with schools, with young people, et cetera.
And we currently use Playworks now within our elementary school. Mm-hmm.
Good. So you're certainly, familiar with AmeriCorps on the receiving end,
right.
Which is fabulous. So the other big division in AmeriCorps is AmeriCorps Vista, which is a little different. It, in some ways, it predates traditional AmeriCorps. It was part of the War on Poverty under the Johnson administration, and it was developed to be the Domestic Peace Corps. And so it has a specific anti-poverty focus, and also is focused on capacity building rather than direct service. So all of the Vistas are not necessarily tutoring kids or working with kids specifically, but might be building a volunteer program that would recruit other people from the community to come in and work with kids, just for example. So, Jirali talked specifically about the Serve Philadelphia Vista Corps. We at FEND also run our own Vista program, and Dana is the operations coordinator for it. We happen to put our members in nonprofit organizations and public schools, and also the school district. Serve Philly's niche is government agencies. And then, Campus Compact is yet another example. They serve as an intermediary and place their members on college campuses, but all with a, anti-poverty capacity building focus. And those are just some of the big ones here in Philly. There's certainly other smaller VISTA programs, and there's VISTA programs around the country. And again, you can find more by going to AmeriCorps.gov or to the Service Year Alliance website. And then the last thing is that, you know, service years are not specific to AmeriCorps. And so while AmeriCorps is sort of the big game in town, and that's where most of us get our funding, there are a lot of private sector service years, particularly affiliated with religious institutions. So things like Quaker Voluntary Service, the Jesuit Volunteer Corps, Repair the World is a Jewish service year program. I mean, there's tons. Haverford House is secular, but again, specific, as I talked about earlier, to Haverford graduates. And so there's just a whole nother, you know, set of organizations. Pretty much every denomination under the sun seems to have a service year. And when I was looking around, I found Carleton College in Minnesota actually had a pretty amazing website where it listed like, you know, probably 30 different 30 different year of service programs, both AmeriCorps and non-AmeriCorps. So I think that's basically it. I mean, mostly it's just, this is a way of trying to make sure that folks are aware of the variety that is out there, and to also think about AmeriCorps in what it does for the person, you know, the member, so the young person doing service, in terms of career building and how it can be part of a career pathway and really helping people find what they're passionate about, to build skills on their resume, and to be part of a supportive environment. So that's really it. You know, if you have questions at all, let us know. Certainly, you know, in your role, Milan, I think we would be happy to, if you had graduating high school seniors who are going off to Temple, Cabrini, Kutztown, or a community college, we would love to recruit them as mentees for the Next Steps program. And we can certainly talk with you further about that. But yeah,
so
that was basically it.
We currently, we're a newer high school, so we only have grades 9, 10, and 11. Next year will be our first graduating class. So I was just like wanting to get on to just learn more about what options are available for our students who don't necessarily want to go to college right outside of high school. Just to see what options were available for them. So this was very beneficial in me learning about the different programs that you all have available for the 18-year-old group.
Great. Yeah, there's certainly options for the student who's not quite ready to go to college, but yeah, that's great. Yeah, City Year would be great. Digital Service Fellows, there's a bunch of programs.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you.
No worries. Thank you so much for joining us and sticking with us.
No, not a problem at all.
No, but this was good for us. This was good practice.
Perfect.
All right.
Okay, well, I guess that's all for me. I definitely appreciate it.
All right, thank you so much. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, bye.
Bye-bye.